All right, good evening. If you're joining us right now, this is the Daily Report, but we're shifting gears to something we call the People's Court. And tonight we're looking at the education system. We're looking at what has been happening over the last calendar year and what is indeed the reason we are where we are today. And here to help us break this down is a committee of 4 gentlemen, stakeholders, experienced and insightful people in their own right, and they're here to help us understand this a little better. Let's start with, to the left, we have none other than Dr. Paul Wanjohi. Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
Among the many other things that you do to Kenya, you are also the National Executive Committee member of the UASA. Kenya,
yes.
Karibu sana.
Asante.
Thank you. Next to him is someone all of you know, especially if you've been watching TV. He is the Deputy Secretary General of the Kenya National Union of Teachers, Mr. Hesbon Otieno. Karibu sana.
Thank you so much, and I want to say good evening, viewers, and to the teaching fraternity, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year indeed.
Of more challenges.
Really?
Yes.
All right, we'll come back. We'll come back to that assessment in no time. And folks, earlier on we had a conversation with the CEO of the East African Educational Publishers Limited, who is also the chairperson of the Kenya Publishers Association. Karibu sana, Mr. Kamau Kiarie.
Asante sana. Let me also take this opportunity to wish all book lovers a Happy New Year.
Absolutely, absolutely. And last but not least is Mr. Boaz Waruku. Among many other things you do, you're also a policy and strategy advisor at Elimu Bora Working Group. Karibu sana.
Thank you very much, Victor, and thanks to Linda too. I'm happy to be here, and to the audience that will be viewing or watching and listening to us. Happy New Year. I almost said Merry Christmas.
Right.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Yes, thank you.
You know, this is actually the first Tuesday of this new year, but it's a Tuesday that has started with a lot of drama. I want to go straight to what you said. You said this is a year of more challenges.
Yes.
Before we go there, I would like you to give your own assessment of what the year that was. Talk to us about 2024 in terms of education. What do you remember that year for? What are the significant elements of this year, please?
Yeah, thank you so much. The year 2024 was equally, as I say, more challenges. It means that the year 2024 had its own challenges too. And the challenges of the year 2024 was the anticipation of the preparation for grade 9. And considering that grade 9 is an examination class, let me not call it examination, but an assessment class. And people were anticipating how prepared are we to usher in grade 9. And considering also that there was the other grades that were yet to settle properly, and also considering the provision of the necessary learning facilities that are required in order to push the implementation of the competency-based curriculum. And also looking at it that there is still more in terms of employment of teachers that was required to be done. And there is also, as teachers, we were saying there were challenges of remunerating teachers in terms of better pay. So all these challenges were there in 2024. I'm happy that as it was coming to an end, most of the things were able to be brushed out, even in terms of the challenges that we had in terms of remuneration of teachers, and also the preparedness of the government as they were giving promises of providing more teachers for 2025, which we saw the employment of teachers at junior school, and we also saw maybe the provision of other teachers to be employed to fill in the gap. But yet still, as we assess where we are going to, I'm still saying there are more challenges as we are going to look into.
More challenges.
Victor, allow me to ask this, and
please,
quickly, so we can get to the other gentleman. Because then I'm wondering, is it that perhaps the government was not well advised, and even after that, there was the coming in of the advisory team, that is for the president, as the question of education. You speak about grade 9 transition, which perhaps could be the biggest concern when it comes to CBC. So looking back, do you suppose that maybe it was not proper for us to have grade 9 domiciled at the primary level? Because then we're looking at a year after around 39 years where we now do not get to have Form 1 intake. So that means in secondary schools, there was going to be classes that actually are not occupied, while on this other side, in primary schools, we're struggling to figure out how we get classes for grade 9. Actually,
it's not a matter of domiciling. It is a matter of general preparedness.
Okay.
When we look at domiciling, even if we looked at the spaces in secondary school, go to the secondary schools today, because people are reporting back to school. You will not find an empty class, because already the secondary schools had already organized on how to utilize the facilities that they have.
Okay.
It is a matter of, the preparedness is a matter of, now the domiciling is at primary school. And the government has been struggling to put in the infrastructure in terms of classes in these schools. I know that some schools have already been equipped with the classes.
Right.
Like today, I was privileged to visit one of the primary schools, and I saw the government in Nairobi, and I saw the government had really provided facilities for that. But previously, I was in my rural area, where I also visited a school, and I wanted to see the preparedness. And I saw that the school in my rural area is put into phase 4. We have 4 phases of implementation of building of the classes. And the phase 4 now is when the government is planning to provide the classes while the schools are opening. So now you can see the challenge, that the schools are opening, but that school in my rural area still do not have class, and they were struggling to get space to accommodate grade 9. So these are what I'm talking about, that yet as the government is trying to plan for others, there is a delay in other schools getting the necessary facility for them to implement.
All right. Dr. Wanjohi, your assessment of the year that was, education-wise?
Thank you very much. I, first of all, take the opportunity to pass my regards of the new year to all our viewers, especially those people who are coming from the hard-to-reach areas where we have the urban schools. And I would say that the score for the year that went, that is 2024, academic-wise, was actually 3 out of 10. So we missed 7 out of 10.
Wow.
And we begin with the coordination in the Ministry of Education. You remember when we had the flooding, students were ready to go to school as per the guidance from the Ministry of Education. But at midnight, a circular is issued. When learners were already from Mombasa, they had passed Mutito a day, some had reached Nairobi, and they are told there's no school. So that is one, showing failure in the communication in the Ministry of Education. The same scenario followed, or maybe something else came out from the flooding, which was very bad. We have got the schools found in the slums. These are the urban schools. And many of them were found in the areas where the flooding took place. And these schools, excuse me, normally handle the learners who are coming from the poor families. In areas we don't have public schools, and if we have a private school, we have the high-cost private school. So when their schools were demolished, those kids went back to the streets. That was in 2024. It's very unfortunate. For those who have taken the data, we are having even through head count, you can be able to see the danger that came, because you go to those areas, you'll find that there are so many kids on the streets who will eventually join the gangs which used to be there before. Then we had the beginning of the year when the results of KCSE came up. A lot of irregularities, where the markers were dead now. The schools which we are leading in the KCSE results were actually the ones coming from the boardroom of the people who are controlling the system.
It was about January of 2024.
Yeah, I'm now talking, we are in 2024 now.
Yeah, just to be clear, because some of our viewers might be confused, because they're all expecting the results, which haven't been announced as of now. We're told in the next 2 weeks, God willing. We don't know. Please.
Thank you very much. Something else to evaluate 2024 was the blacklisting of the textbooks which had been approved by KICD as a result of implementing the recommendation of the Presidential Working Party. When we had the rationalization of the curriculum designs, so many books had been published. They were in the market, But people are told now, going to 2024, these books might not work. And this one also brought a lot of problems because the teachers were not able to do the proper scheming, noting that most of our teachers were not well retooled to handle CBC. Actually, if you look at all these, you can give the score, I would say slightly above 2.5. Let's say 3 to 2.5 out of 10.
All right, a grim picture right there. Let's talk to you, Mr. Waruku. What's your assessment, if you can, in a nutshell, of the year that was in terms of education? The two gentlemen have given a very, very grim picture. I mean, our gentleman here, our friend from KNUT, says this is going to be a year of more difficulties. What is your own assessment?
Thank you. Looking into the future, 2025 going forward should be positive, because where we are coming from was indeed not positive. And if we can go any lower than that, I think our education system will collapse. But I say in 2024, our experience as a Limubora is that our public education system is indeed strong, resilient, and can withstand all manner of attacks, pressures from whatever corners. I think Dr. Wanjohi mentioned the floods, but then you know the labor unrest were quite numerous. But also the uncertainties, even in the curriculum that we are dealing with, CBC, and even the manner in which then the preparation for transition was taking place. You know, last year, 2024 is the year when we went without doing the usual KCPE that we were so used to. In fact, 2024 was like the, is it 1984? Or something, yes, 1984.
Yeah, almost 39 years.
About that time. When now actually that primary, end of primary cycle, that exam that is done, and people are really cheering or looking forward to their children, and the teachers looking forward to their student transitioning to the higher or secondary school. That never happened. It is also a period that I would say parents started really feeling the weight of taking children to school, both at the basic education level and at the higher education level. Yes. And if you remember, I think Limubora had taken a matter to court on the funding at the higher education level. The government, or rather the courts, did give a conservatory order. And then this year, now 2025, of course, I think we are aware that the judgment had been delivered. The judgment actually was delivered last month. I'm almost. Would that be
the same matter with the means testing as well?
Yes, it was the fund. Yes, just that funding. Generally, the funding model, which was found to be really unconstitutional, discriminatory, all those parameters. So for us, we are looking at. That was an opportunity for us to renegotiate our public education system. Because why do we anchor so strongly on public education system? Because that is the only guarantee that we have that the child from those from the most marginalized of communities, the lowest of all the low income categories, or even no income at all, would be having a chance in life really to access education. And so when it is well developed as a public education system, at least you'll have some semblance of these students rising to the top of their abilities. So we thought that was an opportunity. And indeed, when schools closed early, because October, really you can call it early, we also had anticipated that there would be preparations sufficient enough to welcome the grade 9 in whichever level that the government and decided that they would be, whether take it to the secondary or high school or just retained in the primary school where JSS is domiciled. And I think as a Limubora, our recommendation at the time was that these people have been these young ones, grade 7 and 8, they have not been learning much. And we thought it would have been better to enable them interact with the real material of learning in the various pathways that they want to pursue. Even for a single year, we called that a transitory year, grade 9. But somehow I think that was considered really, that's not how it works. So the Munavu recommendation of having a comprehensive school, I think was being tested. And indeed, we've seen that then right now we are having the apex of the comprehensive school. And I think among the things we were raising is just ensure that the schools that are being developed as comprehensive are also inclusive, but also holistic. I think when I use those terms, what I mean is that when they're being holistic, it means that you can you can generate or you can develop your interests and the talents. If it is in sports, if it is in the arts, if it is in the STEM, you are able to do so. And even when they're transitioning to the senior school, we still hope that that could be the case, because we fear that if you now start saying that now there are certain schools which will be designated as purely STEM, purely social sciences, or purely sports, you know, those categorization, we feel that there are certain areas that may not have really the chance to train scientists or others. And these mostly will be the schools in the far-flung areas or the rural areas. And I think that will be discriminatory.
All right.
That is our understanding or viewing of this. So we hope that we'll renegotiate better and we'll plan better. Unfortunately, it appears that we also did not plan well.
We'll come back to you.
Thank you.
Victor, I want Mr. Kiari, who appears to be the only one who's positive, at least of the state of education today, this evening, to as well, even as we come back to the question that you had asked earlier on, I just want us to jog our brains sometime. And it's not even jogging, it's just remind ourselves of the times back when you could wait for your sister to finish up with a textbook. And when you get to, you know, all the way down. But this time around,
the first exercise was to rub off all
all this, if at all there was any, I mean, because there was always going to be something.
There was going to be
if it's in primary school and all that. So, but it was helpful that, you know, one
Parents
textbook,
could plan.
you know, could plan, and this textbook can be used by 3, you know, of your children comfortably, which is contrary to what it is that we get to see today. And when we're talking about 5 years and then there's a change, a whole change of the textbooks, what necessitates this? Perhaps there are very many parents who would want to understand that. And if we're going to look at a new block of books, are they the best of shape in terms of the content, as Daktari had raised a concern on?
Thank you very much. And let me start by once again reiterating that I would like to take an optimistic look at matters education. And I want to say that the year 2025 is a year of endless possibilities in the area of education. There is much more to be achieved. There is, goodwill, there is passion, and hence, if we put all the heads together, certainly we are going to achieve. Having said that, let me also take a bit of a historical look at CBC. You know, we go back to 2009, the report of Professor Douglas Odhiambo, which gave birth eventually to what we have today as CBC. There was a break of a couple of years, and come 2017, the implementation started in earnest. Of course, every new program must have its fair share of teething problems. There were temporary setbacks, and educationists, cutting across the board, had to address those issues. But implementation happened, and come 2020 and 2021, just before the 2022 elections, you do remember that Kenyans kept on complaining about CBC. There were those who were saying that it should be abolished and we should revert to 844, among other things. But there were also sober minds that were saying, no, CBC is good, it needs to be addressed, people need to sit together, look at the positive aspects of CBC, look at the areas that need to be addressed and see how best to address those areas. And it is because of these that in 2022, the president appointed the Presidential Working Party on Education Reforms, led by Professor Munavu. It collected and collated views of Kenyans from all the 47 counties. And we, as the Kenya Publishers Association, presented our memorandum. We also know that, my colleagues here on this panel also presented their recommendations. Using the recommendations by the various bodies, using recommendations by teachers, parents, learners, and basically Kenyans, the Professor Munavu report was presented to the president. In the area of learning areas, which relates to books, there were recommendations that the learning areas were so many, and hence they needed to be reduced. Reduction of those learning areas meant also reduction in the number of books to be used. And that is what led the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development to do the process called rationalization, picking learning areas and looking at the best way of addressing those learning areas and producing one book. So today, as we speak, the levels, grade 5, 6, 7, and 8, have got areas that have been rationalized. And that is what some people are saying, that the books which were being used last year and last year but one have been completely discarded, and hence we are waiting for new books, which is not the case. The case is that those books are still very much useful. They should be used even as the process of rationalization is being completed, because as we speak today, the KICD is going through the rationalized books as done by the various publishers, correcting them, enhancing their quality, and come the end of January, those for grade 5 and grade 6 will be out and available on the market. And come the end of February, the ones for grade 7 and 8 will be available on the market. In the meantime, the books which were used last year but one, can continue to be used because the content is the same. What has been reduced is the weight in terms of the number of learning areas and hence the number of books. And that is why I'm saying...
I have a question on that, if
yes,
you may.
Please.
And I think it's something you raised as well. All these changes are happening, and an outsider would wonder whether they're happening in a vacuum, because there are all these stakeholders that also need to be involved in the change, and some of them are being left behind. Are the teachers prepared? Are the teachers, for example, I understand some of the books you have on the desk right now have the students' version and the teacher's guide.
Yes.
And it's from these that the teachers are able to extract the schemes of work, I believe.
Indeed.
So if things are changing, the situation is liquid, is highly liquid, highly, it's in the air, in flux. If things are changing and these teachers who are supposed to implement this are not being carried along properly, the parents who are paying good money to buy these books and the books are keeping on changing, if they're not carried along, don't you see a situation where, as I mean, understandably, the parents are feeling worn out, they're feeling left out, they're feeling misunderstood and mishandled?
Thank you very much. Let me start by saying that these books, the authors of these books, and all the books that are being released for CBC and other areas are actually written by practicing teachers. These are teachers in Kenyan schools, in Homa Bay, in Lamu, in Nairobi, in Isiolo, mentioned in the area. They are practicing teachers. They have interacted with the curriculum designs as developed by the KICD. They have interacted with curriculum developers to understand the curriculum designs. Secondly, there have been meetings that have been happening at Ministry of Education level and even at county level. There was a recent one, I think about a month ago at the KICD. Teachers were represented at NAT level, at KEPSHA level, at KESHA level, among other organizations, including the civil societies, so that ideas could be floated. But perhaps what we can say is sensitization of the end user. We might want to enhance that. And that is why I said it is a year of endless possibilities. Passion is there. So how best can we sensitize the public? But you also do recall that one of the issues that was raised when most of the Kenyans were saying that CBC is not the right curriculum was the issue of parental engagement / parental involvement.
Just before we go there, would you agree that your team, your people were involved and they're actually, they actually have a grasp on what he's talking about?
Yeah, first of all, I want to cut a perception out of my statements.
Please.
Yeah, that when a year is an year of challenges, does not mean that it is a grim year. Neither does it mean that challenges are negative. Challenges can be positive for posterity. And always in an environment where there are challenges, it makes people think out of the box. And that is why we are there as educationists, to think through the challenges that we have. Like I talked about.
And the possibility.
Yes, I talked about a situation whereby one area of the country, we have availability of classes ready to receive grade 9. While other areas, like the rural areas, and I gave example, there is unpreparedness. So how do we fasten the preparedness so that all schools are at par? Two, to echo the words of my co-panelist, is that it is true that we are carried along as stakeholders. We gave our views during the Professor Munavu committee, and the recommendations and the reports that they gave, we participated fully. And even the exercises that are going on at Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development as a union, we've been working through. But what I'm saying is, in all these situations, there is the implementation aspect of everything that you put down. And this implementation aspect is what comes up with the challenges that need to be looked at, looking at the vast environment where the implementation should be done. My brother has talked about the availability, the usability of books that were being used before, that they can still be used. But you'll find that because of lack of sensitization, some of the schools will recommend and say that those books are now not usable and that you should acquire the new books.
It's basically what is happening right now.
I'm saying that, and these are the things that we need to correct so that the information goes right, that even before you look at the new textbooks that are coming into the field that have been approved by the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, we still have the same contents that are going into those books, into the previous books that were being used, so that parents are not burdened to carry other books. And even the teachers being ready to prepare the schemes of work for the term. Most of the teachers I know, looking at the curriculum design contents, they can already see that whatever was in the previous books is still usable in the current curriculum. That is schemes of service that they need to prepare. It is the same content. So we need to have every other time people getting informed so that people walk along with this. But immediately there is no information, there is a challenge.
It's confusion.
Yes, there is a challenge. So these are the things that we need to always be looking. And I've said properly that this year, 2025, is a year of more challenge, considering that even some of the parents will start panicking because they are thinking in their minds that their children are candidates. And their success is pegged on the preparations that are being done now. This kind of parents, you'll find them panicking and saying, what is the future? Others are walking into oblivion, they don't know what is. So I think settling the minds of the parents so that they are assured that the situation is under control, and the government providing the materials as they are required for implementation of the curriculum. Like the textbooks already, I'm happy that as we were getting into December, most of the schools, when we were with the Minister of Education in Mombasa during the Capture Conference, they were saying that already materials are being provided to schools, and the deputy head teachers were in schools receiving the same. So being sure that every other school is equipped so that the playing ground is level for every other person so that there is confidence, these are the challenges that we need to mitigate upon. I was even talking to one of the head teachers today in one of the rural schools, and he was telling me, Otieno, you people who are at that level, kindly try and help us so that our schools are equipped in terms of textbooks, our schools are equipped in terms of just the desks and lockers where the students will sit.
Right.
So these are the things that I'm talking about, that it is a year where there is a lot of anticipation and a year of challenges. And I repeat, challenges are there with us. They will never end. And in the words of my brother Boaz, you see, and even my brother from the publishers, that at the point, you see, these are the first candidates, if I would call them that, at grade 9. There is a lot of anticipation. And it is just like the teething problems of the CBC. And we are not writing off CBC, by the way. It is there with us. We will work with it. It is only that whatever comes with CBC that needs to be worked so that now there is a smooth flow right from the people who are going to sit for the exams this way. Even Brother Boaz talked about the transition from grade 9 to grade 10 and the pathways that people are going to take, if there are those who are going to STEM, those who are going to science classes, those who are going to sports and humanity, every other. That preparation is what we need to now be having an active conversation about, so that now there is the anxiety that everybody has is suppressed, is put down.
Dr. Let's talk about exams and assessments, because in between there, parents get lost. The PS for Education says that, you know, students should move to grade 7 as they await for the KPSEA results. And then one wants to ask, first of all, is it an exam? What is the difference between an exam and an assessment? Was it a joke in the first place? Was KPSEA exam introduced? And as if, I mean, when it was introduced, what was it meant to achieve? Because if you're going to go tell the students, most of the times you do an exam, say a national exam, and you await for the results so that you know whether you transition to the next or not. But this time around, no results, and you're being told, just go to school, get to grade 7, and then you'll be told what to do next after the results are out. What is going on?
That's a very good question, and I would say that that is the song or the word in the communities in our country. Mm-hmm. And first, I would like first to mention something about the content of the books. Mm-hmm. Before I come to this, which I'll give it well. I would say that the answer given by one of our panelists about the textbooks is quite okay. But let's look at the consideration of the cost. If parents are meant to buy some of these course books for 2 months, mm-hmm. then after 2 months, other books are coming up. I think that is where the problem is. And as Mr. Hesbon has mentioned, mm-hmm. we need to have a lot of sensitization to the parents, let's say to all the stakeholders, so that people get the right concepts. I think somebody mentioned from our hosts that the skimming of by the teachers will be done from these books. The skimming is done from the curriculum designs, mm-hmm. which are already there. And any teacher who is watching us now would agree with us that without the current rationalized books, they are actually finding it not very easy to do what they're supposed to. Mm-hmm. And then when it comes to the assessment, you know, we used to have KCP, people would celebrate, would say that my school is #1. Others would even fake marks And when the minister would say that the best candidate had 430, you'd see some people carrying placards with a school saying my best candidate had 480. You know, and I would say that was actually the biggest problem with the competitiveness of KCP, because we were looking at the competitiveness of transition instead of looking at empowering our learners to get the competencies. Now, in our current situation of CBC, you remember we were doing the KIPSEA last year, and that was the third one, I think. No, the second one. Yeah, it should be the second one. If not, it would have been maybe the third one. If you remember the very first KIPSEA, that is where the rain started falling into our floors, because NEC made a blunder. And NEC had said that the parents and the learners, we have to select schools. You know, it was so confusing. And I would actually appreciate the efforts of the concerted efforts by the stakeholders, where we informed the NEC that this is not the right way, because we are no longer going to have the competitive exam, which might or maybe make the learners transit to the next level. Because in the case in the CBC, everybody is a winner. Today, he might be good in football. I might be good in mathematics. The computer guys, they are good at ICT. And nobody can say that they are going to lose. In this case, anybody who has reached the grade 6 has done the KIPSEA, or maybe because this person was unaware, never did KIPSEA, the transitioning to grade 7, that is the JSS, is actually automatic. Meaning, the ministry did something, or maybe NEC did something which was very good. It removed that competition, and it has actually removed it from the minds of our citizens. Then the learners now, they are even relaxed. Today I was admitting learners in one of the schools that I manage from different schools, and they are quite comfortable. Luckily by 3 p.m., NEC released the KIPSEA results. And if you look at them, they are just like a recommendation. This person did this, did this. There's no number one, there are no marks. There, you know, there's nothing that you can say that was competitive. In this case, I would mention, or I would say that all the citizens should accept that KCP, the competitive 844 in the primary school is gone. CBC, we are dealing with competitive, the competencies of these learners. And every parent must know that the moment this learner goes to grade 7, they start now identifying their pathways, the way it has been mentioned here. And no parent should ever dictate that I want to become a doctor. Let us all start supporting our children, our learners, according to the areas that they are in. We know that we have got the 3 pathways, which will be taken from grade 10. And these 3 pathways, some of them seem not to be marketable when we come to the job space. So parents will say, I want my child to become a doctor. And you ask them now, if you want your child to become a doctor, and here we find that whenever they do a maths exam, they are performing below expectation because you not get their grades. How are they going to become doctors? And so on and so forth. So in this case, answering your question, these assessments were very good. The intention was very good. But many people who have not known, who have not been sensitized, are still waiting for them the way we would wait for KCP. Parents are actually having butterflies wondering now, is my child going? And the assurance we are putting it here, the assurance we are putting it is that these learners, the way the minister put it clearly, let the kids go to the grades.
But resources being put to mark these exams and everything. First of all, why the delay? And second of all, what then is the essence? If this is the guiding factor, why don't you just release these assessments out so that these students can understand then, well, of course, I performed below expectation, maybe I should pull up my socks and all that?
I think you've observed something very good, and I wish everybody got it from where I can read your mind. These assessments are very important in this. The learners, these are young children. If we don't show them that there is any type of, let's put it in quotes, testing, then they might relax. So it was actually a way of telling them, can you be on your toes? Can you keep working hard? Because now if you don't work hard, there is an assessment which is coming, but now to the stakeholders, the teachers, the other leaders of the organizations and the rest, we know very well that these are not transitional grades. They are not grades at all. But now for the small boys and girls, they have to be made to understand that if you don't work hard, you might actually lead into the long career pathway.
All right.
Yes.
And Boaz, I see you want to respond to this, but even as you respond to this, we do not speak about the lower level of education and we forget the higher level of education. And you have highlighted the means testing and the concerns that you presented to court. We still are looking at the second year of implementing, the new aspect of university funding and all that. Lecturer strike, left, right, and center. What kind of picture is it painting? And even if we're going to make sure that we have a beautiful, element of education at that lower level, how do we sanitize? How do we ensure that the higher level of education, then we have grounds that are good enough to receive these ones that are coming up?
Thank you, Linda. I think this a position I normally take, I don't know whether I take it alone, that when you are in education, you are actually in a battle. You are in a battle fighting ignorance. You are competing with so many forces. And I think the way we communicate non-competitiveness to the students, we may be telling them in a different way. I don't know, I'm not in the linguistic class, but I would leave that to them to help us really get what exactly do we mean when we are telling them really not to think competition. When we know that the number of medical students that would be taken would be, say, 100, and this would be considered. So they have to compete for
that number.
So I think there's a way in which we should be very clear with them how we do so. I thought that what we are trying to eradicate is the aspect of using those underhand deals, just cutthroat competition that no matter what, we must appear there until even the children, whatever means that are used, that the children will be at the top. The learning and the assessments that are to be done. And I think that's what now within CBC is then to help us assess or just to gauge how much of the learning has taken place. Are they internalizing all these issues? And indeed, I think Hesbon would help us understand a little bit more here. When you do the assessment and you realize they were not meeting expectations, as a teacher, you try to do more, and then more and more and more. So it means you are continuously using this to enable you fix the weaker areas. So the assessments as being done, and then of course the summative, which normally was happening during the CBC, but even during the 844, but even now, there's the final, at the grade 9, there'll be the national exam. That again, I think the criteria that they are suggesting that would be used to place the students in at the next level based on the pathways that they would feel more competent on. I think that in itself would be based on this kind of assessment. And indeed, for me, for the students, they should know that whenever you take any book to open it up, kutoa ujinga, you are fighting that ignorance. You are trying to remove it in whichever manner that you can. And now taking me to what you're asking, at the higher level and even at the, if you compare that based on how we are perceiving it, are the universities making adjustments to receive, even say, the first batch of the CBC? When you start looking at it, then you realize that the very first thing that should have really happened was actually the retraining or redeveloping of the programs at the university level starting with the teaching, the training of teachers at those levels, and even at the middle level teacher training colleges. Why is that important? It's because when you have them trained, then you know that you're sending or deploying teachers who are more versatile, and they'll be able really to get or bring the CBC parameters into play and deliver it in a more sufficient way. You're aware that when we started all this discussion, there was a debate about we'll retool. We are retooling and retooling, and some of us kept on wondering who will retool the teachers who are already in the field and doing that. Of course, we know there's continuous professional teacher development, which should be an open space. They continuously upgrade their knowledge, skills, and those kind of tools. But in this case, for the CBC, I think for the higher education level and the TVET, if we do not reorient those programs, and if we do not equip them adequately, because we are taking students who are hands-on and they can think, they can use their hands, and they can initiate or innovate things. If that is not already being prepared at those higher levels, then you'll be having people who are really raring to go, then they really get frustrated by the situation or the environment that would be in there, and that would be a problem.
Let me have an input on...
a quick one, yes?
Yes, on what Boaz is talking about. You see, currently, the teachers who are being produced at the university level should be the teachers who are already orientated with the competency-based curriculum. And so the universities now should not be on the slumber in terms of the pedagogical skills and the levels of the learning areas that they are supposed to be handling to produce the next teacher. Because the next teacher is not the teacher who is going to class to handle the former curriculum. So the universities now should also conform into what kind of teacher are you producing. At teacher training colleges, those who are producing teachers at primary school level and at secondary school level, these teachers, already the colleges have conformed into the diploma training. We have curriculum designs already prepared for diploma in teacher training education and diploma in secondary teacher education. The universities have no shortcut about that. I'm happy that personally I interacted and I talked to a professor over the holidays on one of the universities dealing with education. And they are really trying to do a lot of reorganizing so that they have teachers training the courses that they are producing that are in tandem with what is expected in driving the competency-based curriculum. Considering that as we enter grade 10, we only have 3 years before we have the first cohorts of students joining the universities. So it is an area that the universities, if they are in a slumber, it will be killing the students who are going to join the university.
All right. Gentlemen, I like where the conversation is going. We're looking forward. I want to put out a challenge to all of you. You are all knowledgeable men, full of insight, full of information. I want to give you a question, and it is, in your opinion, what are the 3 areas that need the most work this year?
In 30 seconds.
I want you to keep it as tight and as punchy as possible to the viewers who are watching and internalizing what we've shared. What are the 3 areas that need the most work for the highest result this coming year? I think we'll start with you, Dr. Onjoy.
Yeah, thank you.
We go back.
Thank you very much.
Quick as you can, please.
Yeah, okay, I will move very fast. The first area I would say that we need to work on, which has been mentioned, is for us to increase the number of teachers in our public schools who are going to handle the CBC.
All right.
Because the minister, I think the TSC director already mentioned that we are at 50%. And with 50% of teachers, it means that we lack half of the teachers that we need. So the government should take that challenge positively and actually bring in more teachers. It has been mentioned earlier that we need to have those teachers also well remunerated. We don't need them to come as interns. The other one, which is key, is the retooling, the proper retooling of the junior school teachers. This idea of retouring them in a day or 2 days should actually not be there. And I would suggest that we do it online, because the moment we do it online, we can have it as a continuous process where these teachers can continue learning and actually doing what they are supposed to do. Then the third one, which is very crucial, I would like us to have a government or a ministry which listens to the ground. Because now we are having the university funding model. Many students are actually now saying that they are not able to continue their learning. I would say let the Ministry of Education look at the new model so that none of, especially the learners who have dropped, will actually continue being out of the college. And with that one, I think we'll be good to go.
All right, thank you for that. Let's come to the chair of the Publishers Association. What are your 3 things that, should these be looked at, we'll see the biggest gains, please?
First and foremost, dissemination of information, sensitization of the public with regard to various aspects of our education system, including but not limited to the issue of books. Secondly, it is a fact that there is an issue with classrooms, but it's also a fact that we have modern technology which is cost-effective and which can be used to make those classrooms within a week. So can we look at it in a broader sense and see the best way to achieve the classrooms, because it is an issue and it has been acknowledged across the board. And third, I do agree with my co-panelist that the retouring of teachers is also a matter of urgency. Thank you very much.
All right. Mr. Aruku, before we come to...
Thank you. Quickly. We need all our children in school and learning. We must look for those who are out. Statistics which reveal between 2.5 million and 3.5 million, that is at the basic education level alone. Those children should be in school, and all mechanisms of the government should ensure they're in school and they're learning. We should also remove barriers that make them really to be out of school. The second is we must also look at the quality of our education. It should not be a case of bora elimu. It should be a case of elimu bora. Why? Because as of now, as you see, it appears that we were not even preparing well for them. For as long as they are in school, we think that they are learning. We need to tighten that. That should even include the establishment of the Education Standards and Quality Assurance Council. That was the declaration by the court. Thirdly, I think it would be important for us to talk of the financing and the kind of monies, like right now, people are still grappling just with the entry issues of the classrooms, the books and such. But the aspect of financing, funding, to ensure that the monies go there in time. I think the agreements of the basic education level, 50%, 30%, 20% at the commencement or at the beginning of every term should be followed, so that the schools then get these resources to pay. And then a stoppage of pilferage. Because a lot of resources are being wasted. At some of the schools. We look at the Auditor General report released in September 2024. I think that really is. And then finally, I think just a better planning. This knee-jerk trial and error kind of thing, emergency all the time, as if in education where we should be having the best planners, we are not having that. We should do a better planning. Right now we know what is coming ahead, up to including senior schools and preparation for
we should plan better.
University. We should plan better.
Well said.
And it should be consultative. And open minds, open doors, open everything, open governance.
And open hearts. Mr. Hesbon Otieno, please.
Mine is, now we are in January. Let the government ensure that all the schools, latest by end of January or early February, have classes for transition to grade 9. That one is as urgent as yesterday. Let that be done. 2, even as we are moving towards the level, it is not only the textbooks that are required for learning. Let the government provide quality learning materials, even in terms of the identification of pathways. we need other learning materials and other equipment, like if we need proper laboratories, we need home science rooms, we need things that can be able to be manipulated by the students to bring out their competencies.
All right.
So that one is very important. Then 3, let the next level of preparation, 1 year to grade 10, is just but a drop, that is a short period of time. Let the anxiety be settled through sensitization, like my brother said. Let people be sensitized enough for them to understand that how the transition to grade 10 is going to be handled, so that people do not have the anxiety of thinking that it is another exam coming.
Right.
I want us to have the spirit of my brother, where people look at the assessment in form of what competency can you transit with to the next level. There are 2 levels of transitions that people should look at. It is not only the university. We have the vocational training. Yes. We have age-based transition,
yes,
and we also have the transition based on the grade. That is there is a name they use that takes you into the vocational training.
Right.
So if you are identified to go to vocational training because of the skills that you have, it must not be how much you have grasped into your head to take you to the next level. Success comes in very many ways.
Indeed.
So let us have all these preparations so that people are sensitized and they accept that that's the way to go.
All right.
Yes.
Gentlemen, I want to thank you, because your insight has been on fine display tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for sharing your insight. And I believe Kenyans are watching. And by the way, this program is watched by serious people in this country. And I believe all your recommendations have been heard. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Thank you for choosing us to inform you this evening. Clearly, the conversation is bigger than the time that we have. But thank you for allowing us this time to share this conversation that is of national interest. Thank you so much. Thank you, gentlemen.
Yes, without mentioning your titles, Dr. Paul Wanjohi Asante Sana, as well as Hesbon Otieno, and not forgetting Kiari Kamau, and last but not least, Boaz Waruku. My name is Linda Alela. He is Victor Moyakane, and as well as a
sign language
interpreter, that is
Catherine Simaloy.
Yes, Victor knows a bit of sign language,
yes.
So yes, there you go.
That's a sign.
All right, we appreciate everybody tonight, and as well everybody else that has contributed to the broadcast. We have to close it, yes, absolutely, at this very point. And immense feedback from you back at home, as well as Asante Sana. We get to see you again next Tuesday on the same conversation, or perhaps a different conversation that is under the People's Court. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Good
God
night.
bless you.